So thank you, Governor, and it's good to be with you today. And I do want to thank everybody for joining in. Following the Rhode Island story, I really appreciate people doing that. A couple things. 56 cases. I think highlighting the 0.7% positivity rate is important. My thanks to the healthcare providers. Over 8,400 tests yesterday, many in the rain. Can't thank the healthcare providers enough for what we're doing here, and it's just great to see it. It is amazing and humbling to be part of a state that's got such great testing numbers. And keep in mind, there is no cure for COVID right now, but there is case finding. There's case investigation and case isolation. That is the cure. That's why testing is so critical. And right now, 68 folks are in the hospital. 7 of those folks are in intensive care unit and 4 are on a breathing machine. And I'm very sad that we lost 4 more of us yesterday. I really long for the day where that stops to become something we have to announce. It is still very tragic about each and every one of us that has passed from this time here, from this. There's a couple things I just want to chat a little bit with you about today. One is about how parents can help get their kids ready for school. And one is just how we can make kids safe when they get back home from school. And I think just some things to keep in mind is, it's that time of the year right after Labor Day. My brain is programmed from a kid to start school. And so this feels like the right time for me. But how you get to the bus is different. And one thing we're just keeping in the back of our mind is we haven't seen a lot of folks in 6 months. So if you're a little guy and you haven't seen your classmates in 6 months, it's going to be different, right? They're going to be taller. You might not even recognize them. You've grown too. This is awesome, and that's fine. So if you have to reintroduce yourself to a friend you haven't seen 6 months, that's okay. Hugging that friend, being within 6 feet, not the best approach. And I think one thing is, I think it's hard for kids to really relate to what 6 feet is, but most kids know how to jump. And if you can get to another kid within 2 jumps, you're too close. So just think about that. And I think as a parent, if I'm trying to teach my children what 6 feet looks like, I might take some colorful yarn that's 6 feet long, put that around the house or outside in the yard, and I might start illustrating what that looks like for my kids, because I want to teach them what being 6 feet apart looks like. I think as we enter school, one thing to keep in the back of your mind, it's going to be different this year, right? In other words, how you enter school. There'll be signage. You're going to go in certain directions. You're going to follow people. We're not going to crowd up in hallways. That isn't what we're doing this year. I think other things as parents is make sure your kids have an extra mask. I would make sure they had one to keep at school. Every little guy might forget one once in a while. There will be masks at school, but some kids might have their favorite mask, have a cloth mask. I have a couple designer masks at home just because I find that interesting. But I think giving kids a little bit of freedom in that space might be kind of fun. I think other things is sending your little guy with hand sanitizer. If you have a little hand sanitizer in your pocket, you've got your own personal little hand washing station. And one of the key things for our kids is teaching them when you've touched an object that someone else touched, you should sanitize your hands. So there really shouldn't be passing of documents in school anymore or passing of objects. But if something like that happens, use your hand sanitizer. And for the older kids, if we could just role model for the younger kids, quite frankly, I think we've all realized this. We're all role models, whether we like it or not. We either role model health-affirming behavior or role modeling behavior that makes the pandemic propagate. So I think it's just important to have that context there. Some other thoughts that I want to just share with folks is, I think it's important for kids to learn to talk about how they feel. You really want to check with your little guy every day. You feel okay to go to school? And that's not a new thing. That is a new thing for us, right? We're not used to asking that, but I think we have to ask our little guys, how do you feel? By the way, when they get home, I would ask my little guy, how'd the day go? You feel okay? Were people being 6 feet apart? Were people wearing those masks? Let's have that dialogue. Make it normal for our kids. And I think another concept is sharing. We do want to teach sharing to our kids, but right now sharing objects in school isn't really healthy. So we really don't want to have people sharing lunches. We don't have people sharing masks, and that just isn't a good idea. So we have to tell our little friends, look, we're just not going to share things. And I think that's just an important concept. I think when we think about what home looks like, important around our house to clean the high-touch surfaces. So any digital device, any remote control, clean those often. My son, Christopher, he's 17. Every day at noon, he runs throughout my house. I asked him to. I have to remind him sometimes, but he cleans all my doorknobs and cleans all my things. I decided to appoint him early in the pandemic, my family infection prevention officer. He does not disappoint. Why not do that in your family, I think other things is just role modeling, washing hands. And one of the things about washing hands, when I wash my hands, what I do in my mind is, I assume there's virus on it and I need to wash it off. And that's a different mindset because it's not an absent-minded activity for me. Now it's a health prevention activity with purpose. And I think if you think of it that way, there is virus on me, I've got to wash it off. You're a little bit more serious about it. I think some other things to keep in mind is at home, why don't we open the windows? It's nice out. Let's get the windows open, get that air exchange going. Other things I think is when little guys get home, if they've been wearing a disposable mask all day, go ahead and have them throw that mask away when they get home. Let's have another mask for them for the next day. And there are some positive things about school that are going to start. And I think we just have to get back to like, what is normal, right? So what I'm used to is buying shoes, right? So that should happen. Go get shoes this weekend if you can, preferably at a Rhode Island shoe store. But there's other things that are going to be normal with school too, like there's probably going to be homework, my friends. You can't stop that, right? Health department can't cancel homework, right? So let's just accept that's okay. It's going to happen, right? But I'm getting ready for school, so I got some things, right? Look at me, guys. I got my pencils. I got my number 2 pencils. I'm ready to go, right? But sometimes in school I make mistakes, so you know what I got? I got my erasers. I'm ready to go, right? Because I'm getting stuff here. But even exciting here. So I was at Walmart last night. I'm going to tell you about this deal. This was something else here. Ready for this? 25 cents for a box of crayons. Boy, this brought back memories for me. I colored sort of inside the lines, my friends. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. I don't really care how you color. I just think you should color. By the way, adults can color too. You know what? Have a little fun with life, my friends. But you know, there's some really fun things to be excited about for school this year. And I hope you have time to spend some time with crayons and your pencils and get ready for school. I think there's some fun things going on here. And I think we just have to think about it from the big picture. You know, there's an old expression. If we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. If we're not willing to live differently during this pandemic, we are doomed to perpetuate it. As a parent, I am teaching my kids how to live differently during this pandemic. As a parent, I'm asking you to just do the same with your children. Teach them how to live differently during the pandemic. That's wearing their masks, being 6 feet apart, hand washing. It's still a preventable disease, my friends. If we do those things, I'm optimistic about my future. Thank you so much, everybody.